Adam Lerner, BrooklynPhotoworks.com, and today we are here with the Zeiss Otus 55mm f1.4 manual focus prime lens. This thing is massive and it's built absolutely beautifully. All metal construction. It even has a metal lens hood on it. Let's just give you guys a sense of this thing. I mean, that is the lens just on its own without the lens hood. And just for example, just for shits and giggles, let me just show you guys what the Canon 50mm f1.2L looks like next to it, okay? I mean, guys, ridiculous, okay? You see what I'm talking about right there? This thing used to feel like a really major piece of glass until we put this bad boy on there and realized that as awesome as that little 1.4L lens is, this thing is absolutely incredible. So, why did I rent a 50mm, well, why did I rent a $4,000 lens? Why did I rent this lens from Borrow Lenses? And let me just elaborate on that for a moment. I rented this lens from Borrow Lenses. I have no affiliation to Borrow Lenses, but I went to Borrow Lenses because I know that those guys do a great job. And the reason why I rented this lens from them is because it's a $4,000 lens. And before I'm going to go out and spend $4,000 on a lens, I wanted to try it out. Now, you know, lenses like this 50mm f1.2, the 24-70, like most of the standard Canon glass, it's been tried and true. It's been written about in nauseating detail. You see photographers using that stuff all the time. This lens, you don't really see out in the wild very often. Why did I rent this lens? Well, you know, I love my Canon glass, and I think Canon glass is incredible. And to be honest with you, the go-to lens that I use most of the time is the 24-70mm f2.8 Mark II, which is incredibly sharp. It has incredibly, you know, it's just an amazing lens. It just performs beautifully. It focuses incredibly fast. It's got very close focusing, almost to the point where I really can use it as like a macro lens for a lot of the stuff that I'm doing. It's not a macro lens, but I can really get that close because the minimum focusing distance is so close, and it really, that's a wonderful thing as an all-around lens. To be honest with you, if all of my lenses disappeared tomorrow and the only lens that I could take with me, it would be the 24-70 f2.8 Mark II Canon L lens. However, I rented this lens mainly because as much as I love that lens, I want something that has a different look, something that just kind of gives me something that's a little bit more creative, or just allows for my creativity to flow a little bit differently and allows for me to get that really, really incredible shallow depth of field with tack sharp focus. And that's the one thing about these L lenses. You know, I've got the 51.2L, I've got the 85 1.2 Mark II L, and they're fantastic lenses. They're phenomenal lenses. The 50s, you know, probably a little bit easier to use because the focusing is a lot faster than the 85, where the focusing is incredibly and painfully slow. But wide open, these L lenses are not that sharp, and I'm really looking for something that I can shoot wide open and sharp. Like when I used to shoot with my medium format system, which I'm not shooting with anymore because it was just so damn quirky. I had so many problems. I had camera bodies die on me. I had leaf shutter lenses die on me. It just became too much of a hassle for the time being. Doesn't mean I won't be back into a medium format system. I'm just not using one now. So everything I read about these Otus lenses is like, you know, you get that medium format look, which means that you get that really insane shallow depth of field with incredible tack sharp focus. So you get that unbelievable separation. Which again, you know, when I'm shooting wide open with these lenses, if I'm not at like, you know, f2, you know, when I'm more open than that, you get, you know, like just horrible chromatic aberration, you get softness, it's just not that sharp. Anyway, so took this bad boy out and I've been playing with it, and let me tell you something, it is absolutely incredible, and it is exactly, or it's on par with what I had read about this lens. You get insane tack sharp focus, okay, and we're talking about at f1.4, wide open. This thing is incredibly tack sharp. And the files that I was able to pull, you have such incredible latitude, and the way that the light fall off happens on these photos. So like, to give you an example, I was taking some photos with afternoon light. So we had areas of like really nice light, and then areas of really, of dark. So, like very, very contrasty kind of looking areas where I really wanted to kind of expose for the light areas, and then, let the light fall off. And the fall off is incredible. It really has that medium format look. Then I took it out, and I was out and about during, I went to go and visit the ice jam up the river over here, where the ice is just piled all along the river. And I went out and I took all these outdoor kind of landscape nature shots, and it's unfreaking believable. And the latitude that you have on these files is incredible. It's sharp corner to corner. The level of detail that you get in there is incredible. The amount of recovery that you can do, with the raw files, and I'm just able to pull a lot more out of the files that I'm shooting with this lens than I was able or am able to pull out of the information that I get when I'm shooting with these lenses. Okay, so I can go on and on about how much I love this thing and how much I love the look of the files. However, let's talk about some of the things that we have to deal with when we're dealing with such a lens of this magnitude. Number one, this lens weighs over 2 pounds. Okay, that is heavy as heck. This is about 2¼ pounds, this lens with the lens hood. So, on a Canon 1DX Mark II, it's an appropriately sized lens. Okay, it doesn't fit like the 50, but it feels balanced. It feels okay. I could definitely see putting this, like, if you put this on a 6D, it would feel weird. On a 5D, it would feel fine, but I would want the grip because it just has that much girth to it. Okay, the other thing, and I guess the elephant in the room, is that it is a manual focus lens. So for all you people, myself included, that have gotten so spoiled with autofocus, this is a humongous learning curve. What I have found and what works for me is there's a couple of different things. Number one, you've got your distance, Jesus, I don't even know what you call this thing. Anyway, you've got your distance calculator or whatever, on the lens over here. So you can certainly approximate, you know that, okay, I'm going to be 6 feet away or 10 feet away, whatever. You can certainly get your focus, to a degree, estimated by looking at this. And a lot of photographers like Henry Cartier-Bresson, like, he would absolutely do that. He would kind of park himself in a spot, and then he would basically set the distance on the lens and just kind of like very, very obscurely shoot so that he could be in sharp focus without having to try to focus, things that are happening. Now, what I found on this lens, because it does have a chip on there, so that means that you can obviously change the aperture on it, it also lets you know when you have focus confirmation. So what that means is that if I'm looking through the lens, okay, I know that if I turn this, I can see to a degree that it's in focus, but then, I don't know if you guys can hear that. You hear that? That's my focus confirmation. So in addition to the little center kind of red block inside the camera that's like my focus point that I'm utilizing, okay, I also have the little yellow light that kind of gives me the focus confirmation and the beep. So what's happening is that when I know that I've got focus confirmation on the focus point that I'm utilizing in the lens, I get that little focus point inside the lens that lights up, and I get the little beep, and I get the little yellow light that also says, okay, I am in focus. All right, this is challenging. Now, if I'm shooting this thing at f1.4, I've got an insanely shallow depth of field. So for example, if I was shooting a portrait within, like, let's say 3 feet of the camera, and I was focusing on somebody's eye, their nose would be completely out of focus and their ears would be out of focus because the focal plane is that shallow. So shooting with this thing definitely is challenging. It takes a lot of getting used to, and I'm still just getting used to it. I'm just getting familiar with it, but I'm getting a lot better at it. The focus ring is incredibly smooth, and it's only about, let's say, 2/3 of a turn from I guess infinity all the way up to its closest focusing, which is, I'm guessing, to be about 1.5 feet or so, maybe 18 inches in that range, which is good. It's definitely good. What else can I tell you about this lens? Is it worth the $4,000? Well, you know, look, that is really subjective. I know that if I can really put this to the test as a portrait lens, I think that I can shoot some incredible portraiture with this if I can get the focus right. I think that this would be terrific for doing automobile photography and motorcycle photography. I think that if you've got a controlled situation where your subject is not moving, then this is going to be a terrific lens. Now, there are ways to cheat that if you do have a moving subject. Obviously, if you know what your distance to your subject is and you can really hold the camera in that position, then that's going to be fine. But if you're shooting wide open at f1.4 and you've got a subject that moves even the slightest bit, or you, because, you know, look, people when they're standing, like as still as I am when I'm holding this camera, okay, there is a little bit of movement in my body, okay? There's always going to be a little bit of that movement, and you really have to be careful. Unlike using an autofocus lens, which is going to, you know, really nail that focus for you, you're going to have to work a lot harder to get focus on this. So for me, I think it's a really incredible creative tool, and I'm going to have to decide if it's something that I want to throw my money at. However, I will give this lens a really outstanding review. I think that the files look absolutely incredible, and that is really what sells it for me. You know, that you get a level of creativity that you can achieve with this lens that I feel is something that you're not going to be able to achieve with these lenses, because they're just not going to be as sharp or not nearly as sharp, and you're going to have a lot more chromatic aberration and other kinds of artifacts when you're shooting wide open. So there you go, guys. This was my unpaid, unendorsed, just kind of personal review of the Zeiss Otus 1.4 f1.4 55 millimeter f1.4. I loved it, and I could definitely see using it a lot more. Maybe I'll rent it more. Maybe I'll pick one up. Who knows? So that's it for now. If you have any questions or comments, please do leave them below, and we'll see you soon.